steering wheel. Somebody tell him to give it to me.
There's something loose between my legs.
I don't know. Let go!
I'm heavier than a freaking boat.
Nothing he's going to say can make that any better.
Yeah, nobody. No more radio for the rest of the race.
I'm going home.
Hello and welcome to DRS FC, an F1 podcast by soccer nerds. I am one such soccer nerd. My name is André Carlisle, and I have two soccer nerds with me to review the Canada, well, I was going to say Grand Prix, but it was another sprint weekend. I think the first sprint that Canada has had. So we got a lot to talk about. Kyle, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well. I had put a skeet out there that said McLaren pulled a Ferrari, and I'd like to apologize to Ferrari because that actually might have been much worse than what they would normally do.
Yeah, that's actually brutal. I actually heard that, and I know we'll talk about it, but we heard that Ferrari was going to do that with Lewis, and he was like, no, we're not doing that. Deepti is also here. How are you?
Yes, I'm good. Can I just say, what a fantastic sports weekend this has been, just across all sports.
It was fine. It was fine. I'm not going to say it was a good one.
I've had a great weekend, and it's a long weekend, and it's been really sunny and warm. So yeah, fantastic weekend.
Yeah, we know why you had a great weekend, but you are correct. It was a great weekend. There was a ton of women's soccer drama. There was a ton of softball drama. Did y'all see? What was it? Texas? Was it Texas Tech or Texas A&M? I can't remember. The Florida team was like, we ain't shaking hands. It was like, wow, there's beef in softball. That's amazing.
I would not have guessed that.
There was a ton going on. But we are here to talk about F1 because there's a ton going on in F1 as well. Like I said, we had a sprint race. That means we had sprint qualifying. We also had Grand Prix qualifying. And of course, we have two full race events to talk about. So before we dive into all of the decisions and silliness that occurred, and of course a little spat, another brilliant teammate war that it seems like we're going to get this year, Kyle, how about you just tell us like who finished where in the sprint and also the Grand Prix?
So in the sprint, George Russell had won. He had pole and won it from there. Lando Norris finished second, and Kimi Antonelli finished third, Oscar Piastri fourth, Charles Leclerc in fifth, Lewis Hamilton sixth, Max Verstappen seventh, and Arvid Lindblad was able to get the last point in eighth. The only person to not complete the race was Fernando Alonso in an Aston Martin. I know you were all surprised about that. Then we got to the actual race, and that got relatively interesting because Kimi Antonelli won his fourth race in a row. And it was a hard-earned win. It was him and George battling for the majority of that race. Excellent time. Everyone was having fun, except George. We'll talk about what happened later. But Lewis Hamilton, in his finish in the best Grand Prix position in a Ferrari car, finishing second. Max Verstappen finished third. They were also battling it out for second and third. It was very exciting. Charles Leclerc finished fourth. Isaac Hadjar got fifth. Franco Colapinto, 6th, Liam Lawson, 7th, Pierre Gasly, 8th, so Alpine double points, Carlos Sainz, 9th, and Ali Behrman got the last point. And for those that didn't finish the race, Arvid Lindblad didn't start, Alexander Albon did not finish, Fernando Alonso shockingly did not finish, George Russell and Lando Norris each not finishing, having issues with their car, and Sergio Perez, his suspension blew up in the pit lane. So It was something. And also to note, it was a giant gap between the top. It was Kimi cruising. After George retired, Kimi had pretty much all the time. Lewis and Max were battling each other there within a second. And then Charles Leclerc was 44 seconds after that. And he was the only car not to get lapped besides the podium.
Yeah, I was about to say, looking at the results, I could see like the +1 lap really high up. And I was like, my God, like I know Canada's a short track and it's fast, but oh my God, the variance among these teams, especially the top four and everybody else, is just bonkers. So, all right. Thank you very much for going through that. I think I want to focus on, because obviously we're not going to be silly. We're going to talk about Kimi and George. And we'll talk about McLaren because there's plenty to talk about there. We'll talk about Ferrari because we definitely need to talk about the contrasting days or weekends that Charles and Lewis had. But really, the talking point is George versus Kimi. It officially kicked off this weekend, especially in the sprint race. So I want to talk about the sprint race first and then how it may have informed what happened in the Grand Prix, because I have some like grounded in reality thoughts, and then I have my tinfoil hat. I want this to be true thoughts. And so let's start with just the sprint race, because that was, I don't know if I expected Kimi to go so hard. I knew George was going to go hard about battling Kimi because, like we all said in the preview, this is it for him. He won this race last year. He needs to show dominance over this kid because this kid is running away with things already. And so it was like that was in George's mind, and Kimi was throwing a fit in the car because George was slamming the door every time he tried to make any sort of move to overtake him. So Deepti, your thoughts on the battle that happened between Kimi and George in the sprint race?
Well, I'm even going to take a step back and say I think it started in qualifying, even in sprint qualifying. Like as soon as they got to Montreal, George, like I knew this would be on his mind. And George likes Montreal. He got pole last year. And immediately, like they were battling for fastest lap. And actually, like we know Kimi had the 3 previous poles and 3 previous wins. This time, George went out in both qualifyings and he got pole in both. So he was already feeling good and feeling better. But I'm not like surprised at what happened. I think, Kimi is still young, still kind of doesn't realize consequences yet, I guess, which is both good and a bad thing. It just means he can drive fearlessly. But he also will make rash decisions. And so that one part when they are like going wheel to wheel and then they touch and Kimi starts like crying on the radio about what was happening. It was just one of those moments where I think he said afterwards too, like they had to be sent to the principal's office to talk it out. This is not one of those things that they want to like fight on the track. Luckily, it was just a sprint race. So like it wasn't the full race, which we'll get to, but I think it was just funny, whereas one of those like big brother little brother moments where one is still trying to show up the other, where the other one is getting annoyed with the younger brother of like always showing him up, and just the fist came out even more this time. It was fun for us and it was very entertaining. I know in the Mercedes garage they were probably on the edges of their seat in like a worse way and just please don't ruin anything. But I think I get it. It's fun. And I think we're far away from Papaya rules now and getting to Patronus rules, which will be interesting moving forward.
Quick question. Do you think George was in the wrong?
No, I think it was a racing incident. I think it's one of those.
I don't think so.
It was hard to like put it on one because like George did have the line. So it's kind of like, I mean, I don't expect George to just give it away, especially to his teammate.
Yeah.
But Kimi was right there. So it's kind of like I can't really put a blame on one particular person. I chalked it up as a racing incident.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I've got some thoughts. I mean, I think because of the way the rules and regulations are written, which we all know very well, thanks to Max Verstappen and the way that he uses the rules to his advantage, we all know these deep, Appendix A dot, 4.2 Section A, whatever. Like we all know that this is the way that it's written. I kind of go back to, who was it? Fernando Alonso, who said all the time you must leave the space. I feel like that to me should be the universal racing rule. If somebody's there, don't act like they're not there. That's just the whole thing. Like cars have to exist on track, and you want to defend, but sometimes just like being like, nope, the full corner is mine. That robs us of the wheel-to-wheel racing that, remember in China when we saw Lewis Hamilton and Charles doing that. They were giving each other space, and it was brilliant fun. Like you can do that with other, especially if your teammates, you can do that and respect one another. So I agree. Racing incident, not really up to George to say, the rules don't say to do this, but I'm going to leave the space anyway. He had to come in and show some sort of like, hey, little kid, like I've been here for a minute. You've been having a great run, but all right, like it's not going to be easy for you. I am here. So I understand his reaction, but I just hate the way these regulations are written because I do think it robs us of some of these moments, because now we're arguing about front axle. Is there wheel by the front axle and then that at the apex, and then does that mean that that's the corner, and do you have to? I hate all of that shit. I just want to see like leave space, may the best man win.
Yeah, I think that's like the tough part, is because of how Max Verstappen has pretty much abused that rule. It's kind of like it is what it is. So like if that's going to be how they're going to rule it, that's how they're going to rule it. And I think that's probably what the stewards thought. We're like, we can't just punish one of these drivers, because if we do, then it's going to be like, well, what about all these other instances for the past 5-6 years? And it's like, oh shit, like, yeah, I guess we maybe, and then it's like, maybe we got to change the rule, and then you're going to have an uproar of that, and Max Verstappen's going to threaten to retire for the 90th time.
I just want one journalist to be like, okay, so when's your last race? Like, just stop bringing that up every time you're slightly inconvenienced. It's so annoying to me that every time, and then the whole F1 media just buys it. Oh, Max is thinking about quitting. What does F1 need to do to keep Max? Nothing. He's going to keep driving in F1 because he's an F1 driver, and he knows that at some point Red Bull will figure it out. And if they don't, he's the most wanted driver on the grid. He can go to any team and be like, hey, I'd like to win a championship for you. And they'll say, sure, how much money do you want? Like, that's the way it's going to go no matter what. So his threats to quit, like, I have no doubt that at some point he will end up in some other racing series. But it ain't going to be this year, ain't going to be next year, ain't going to be the year after that. He's going to be around for a minute.
Yeah, I feel like someone just needs to be like, okay, do it. Just do it.
Right. Yeah.
Retire.
Stop talking about it. Like, go see you in the World Endurance Championship.
Bet you won't.
Exactly. Like, go ahead, please stop threatening F1. And it's so annoying. And I think I got in some arguments with some folks in the IG comments, which, by the way, don't do that with your life. That was a bad way for me to spend my life. But I did. I spent some time in my life going back and forth with people because they just kept saying, like, you know, it was after Miami, the Miami race. Remember where he almost got pole, where the FIA brought up the 60-40 split, like doing 60-40 for 2027. But they hadn't talked about that or done any meetings about that prior to the Miami race. The Miami race, he was like, yeah, I think I'm going to stick around. Like, I see that they're going in the right direction because he almost got pole. And then everybody makes it about the 60-40. I'm like, no. That came up after the fact. It was just his own personal results. And that's fine. Like, of course you feel better when you, like, when you're close to your dominating, your most dominant self, when you almost get pole, when you're doing good in the race. Of course, that's just a natural thing, but it's so obvious to tell when he has a bad race result, he wants to leave. When you have a decent race result, oh, these regs aren't too bad. It's been that way for like the majority of the season, so please stop buying into his nonsense.
Gets podium and the racing's like, you know, we can build off of this. We can find more out of this car. It's like, yeah, no shit.
Right. All right, let's move on to the Grand Prix and what happened between Kimi and George, because I do think there's a lot more to talk about there, because I think one of the things that was fascinating about the sprint race was that Kimi was complaining so much that Toto got on the radio and was like, hey, kid, shut up. We do this stuff internally. Like, all your radio messages are being played on Sky to everybody right now. This is not how we handle this. And I bet you McLaren would say, see, that's why we did that papaya rules nonsense. Stop all that from happening. I kind of like the fact that they didn't do that, but also I didn't like the fact that they gave him an ultimatum like, hey, y'all play nice or we'll end it. It's like, we'll turn this car around right now. it was just very silly. Like, okay, whatever. But there was more beef between both of them. And it seemed like Kimi, it seems like he wasn't able to actually find a way to overtake cleanly because George was so good defending and cutting him off. But he did take the lead from George when he forced him into mistakes. So that was another little tool that I think he realized, if I can't get wheel to wheel by you and us beside you and have this space, I can force you into a mistake and then overtake you that way. So I think he's learning a little bit. But Kyle, we'll start with you. Your thoughts on their scrap in the Grand Prix?
Honestly, that one, I was like, okay, this is going to get interesting. And on the F1 TV broadcast, the commenters were like, Kimi just needs to wait. George is going to make a mistake, and that's when Kimi can pounce. He doesn't need to just put pressure on him. And I thought it was interesting because it was one of those, especially after the sprint, where you're just sitting here like, oh, this is a matter of when, not if they collide, and when and how bad. And I feel like that was kind of the feeling I had the whole time watching. It was kind of going on this, when is it going to, like, who's going to cause it and when is it going to happen? And eventually it felt like, okay, they're good. Like, I think they've calmed down. I think they've at least kept the clean scrap and everything. And then it was kind of like, nope, never mind. Nope. Oh, okay. We're going to crash. We're going to crash. It's going to be bad. That was kind of like my feeling the whole time, because it was like, it was clean, but it was very much like one of these two is going to do something. And I feel like that's what it's going to be all season. It's going to be kind of like that. It was like, you know how like Lewis and Charles were battling and you were like, no, they're going to be fine. We trust these two drivers. And in the other case, I was like, we don't trust either of these drivers right now.
I think that's fair. And to be honest, I'm not going to lie. I had my fingers crossed. I was like, Lewis could win this race if those two take each other out. So, I'm here for the drama and also for Lewis winning the race. I don't care what happens ahead of him. Deepti, your thoughts on their scrap?
Yeah. Well, I thought it was brilliant racing. And this is what we like to see. For me, as like someone who's, not necessarily, I won't say I'm a neutral fan. I do like one Mercedes driver more than the other, but in general, I just want to see both of them battle it out, and that's what we got. I don't know if it would be sustainable over all 68 laps. It definitely was over 28 laps, and that was really fun. But I think, Kyle, you're right. Like, it was just a matter of when, not if. And this maybe it's like due to this track itself, where like the places where they were trying to overtake you, if you didn't get it cleanly, then you had to like take the scenic route through the grass or like almost hit the wall and go. So it seemed like there were a lot of locking up when they were trying to overtake. But overall, I do wish we got a full race of this kind of battling, because it was better than the sprint, where it seemed like they were a little bit more toned down, or at least more in control, but it was still like fighting to the max of like who can win out. And it would have been the best thing. And if we do get this for the rest of the season, like, hell yeah, this would be great. I am just like super bummed that it did end for George the way it ended, because no one wants an external issue to come and like take part. We want people to like, at least me, I want Kimi to win out like on par with George, and just as a good racer and as being the better racer, and not for mechanical issues as what happened. It's very reminiscent of last season when, I think it was Zandvoort, when Lando's car broke down like towards the end of the race, and that gave Oscar the win and like a big lead in the championship. So obviously this season, there's still a lot of season left, but it seems very similar to what happened last year.
Yeah, I'll agree. I at least wanted them to get to a pit stop. I wanted to see what was going to happen at a pit stop. Like, who's coming in first? Like, what happens? How did they try and undercut or whatever? Like, how are the teams strategy wise? Like, how is Mercedes going to handle that call? That's what I really wanted to. I'm sure the leader, the driver ahead of the other was going to get the call. But also, who knows? Like, it wasn't, they were pulling away a bit, but because they were scrapping, it ain't like the others were that far away. You have a long pit stop. Suddenly now you've got other problems with other drivers getting in the middle of things. So I thought that was going to be fascinating. And so I agree. It really sucked that we didn't get the full Grand Prix of that, because I do wonder how it would have played out from a pit stop perspective. And then, Kyle, from your perspective, if they do all what ended up being 68 laps, because they did 2 extra formation laps, which is very funny. But if they had a full 68 laps, I do not think both cars finish. I think somebody hits somebody and takes them out, and maybe both of them don't finish, because they both had a point to prove. And Kimi could have said, yes, this is my like veteran teammate showing up at a track that he loves. But also, Kimi was just as fast as him, if not faster. So I'm not going to concede anything. Like, I have the same car that you have, and I can put it on pole most of the time. And when I can't, I can get ahead of you and win a race. Like, I know that, like, just seeing that play out would have been so fascinating. But then George's engine blows up, and he has to stop, and he throws his little Haas device on the track. I was like, oh man, he was hyped, slammed his gloves on.
We are crashing out.
Full crash out hours.
And I love how people are criticizing George. Like, no, I think that's a very valid crash out.
That was extremely valid. And like, he didn't even crash out that much. Like, they showed him after. I mean, he was standing there shaking his head. They showed him talking, like Toto coming out to see him afterwards, and he just had like a resigned like laugh almost. He was and shrugged. He was like, "What can he didn't even crash out that much. He just threw his like headrest out, and people are like getting on him for that." No, he like that deserves a crash out.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think don't throw things on the track because that
Yeah,
could be
that's fine.
dangerous. Like, I get that. I get people being like, well, that's the thing. But also, that's like the immediate frustration.
Mhm.
Like, you're just pissed off. And yeah, he probably should have thrown it in the grass or whatever. But it ain't like you're aiming with those sorts of things. You're just mad. So you just like, get the fuck off me, throw that thing, and then get out the
Exactly.
car. So I understand it as well. I'm not mad about it. It was funny. It's usually funny to watch people crash out, especially grown ass men. So it was very funny, but also very warranted.
Yeah.
All right. So I think going forward. So let's reset it real quick because Kimi had a 20-point lead over George in the drivers' championship coming into the weekend. George's win and Kimi's third place cut it to 18 points. Now, because George didn't finish the race at all because his engine blew up, no fault of his own, and Kimi won, it's 25 points tacked onto that. So now it's a 43-point gap. And I know last season taught us sometimes these gaps don't mean nothing and they can be easily overcome, or like, who knows, maybe karma comes and blows up Kimi's engine at some point and now we're right back into where we were. But do y'all think George or anybody else is going to catch Kimi, or do you think this is basically Kimi's to lose by now? Kyle?
I think George would be the most likely one, but I don't know. I'm very curious how the end of that compression ratio stuff Mercedes has plays into effect, because now it's done.
Ooh, yeah.
So it's kind of like, all right, I don't know, because like Leclerc's not that far, but he's only like 10 to 13 points behind George. Lewis is not that far behind George either. So it's kind of like, I don't know if this is maybe Ferrari's like mini opening, because Kimi did not do well in a good stretch of the Europe side of things last year. So did he learn stuff from that, or is he going to repeat it? So that's what I'm more curious about, is how the compression ratio changes, and will it allow Mercedes to dominate like they have all year, or is Kimi going to be able to sustain it? And I'm not saying he has to win all these races, but if he just continues getting podiums, finishing in the top 5, then I think it gives you a chance. But I think George is the only one right now that I could realistically see catching Kimi. And even that's kind of like all right, but you're going to have to really, if you can get the car to finish, you have a chance. But reliability is not this game this season with all these new regs and everyone trying to figure it out.
Yeah, and it's 7 points between first and second. So if they won 2 every race, George is still going to need to win like 5 or 6 straight races before he actually puts a significant dent into Kimi's lead. It's a tough one. Deepti, what do you think?
Yeah, after last year especially, I don't want to like say it's anyone's like anyone's to lose or anyone's to win at this early in the season. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but like even when Oscar was like 35 points ahead, we thought, we said it was his to lose. It was Lando's to like, Oscar has to mess up in order for Lando to get by. And like, yes, with some help, that is what happened. And so I think Kyle, you make a really good point about the like compression ratio thing being over now. And then just some of these other teams, like Ferrari, starting to build up again. Like it seems like, at least with Hamilton's car, they're clicking a little bit more and like getting a little bit better every week. And so at a race like Monaco, there you can't make any mistakes. And I mean, qualifying is so important there. So like, we'll see what happens with that. But I won't call it for anyone. I do think I don't think Kimi has won this yet by far. And I think some other drivers will be able to catch up to him. Yeah, I don't know if he'll be able to sustain this throughout. It would be great if he does. André, you made such a good point though about the pit stop thing, because I don't think Mercedes has had to make a decision like that yet this season. And so it would have been really interesting to see what they do. And they're going to have to come to that point at like some point, probably in the near future. And when they do that, I think that'll tell us which of the 2 drivers is more likely to like win the championship.
Yeah, I do think that like, I think there's a couple things or several things that could make this very interesting, even with the lead that Kimi has. Like you said, Kyle, for some reason, even though a lot of these tracks are familiar to Kimi, the European season was one of his worst. He was pretty poor during that run, and like quite poor. I think like finishing like an 8th or whatever, or struggling. Like he was pretty bad. And so I'm interested to see how he conquers those challenges in 2026. There's also compression ratio, as you mentioned. Plus, if Ferrari gets that additional development and upgrade opportunity with their engine, which there still seems to be some politicking and beef there, if they can prove that they're 2% down on power to Mercedes, they can get some additional development funds to try and catch up. And if they're able to do that, because that's pretty much the problem. You even heard in the drivers podcast, the little cool down room, when Lewis and Max were in there, Max was saying, like, in the corners you just darted away from me, but I was catching you on the straights because, and Lewis was just like, yeah, our engine is just like we don't have this straight line power, like we just don't. So, and he was having to pull from him in the corners, but then Max would catch back up, which I was very scared of. I thought maybe he was gonna get caught at the end, especially with Max being within 1 second and having overtake, but it was those chicanes that Lewis just kept nailing, was able to zip through there and add a couple of tenths to his lead over Max, which was a really cool battle to see. I thought that was really fun as well. So let's take a quick break and talk about the rest of what went down between in the Canada Grand Prix. Okay, let's talk about of course, it's going to be Ferrari. I'm excited to talk about Ferrari for the first time in a very long time, and actually, it's only for one driver, which is also.
I was going to say one driver had a great weekend.
Yeah, so Ferrari for one driver to be like, I'm so happy, and the other one to be like, this is my worst weekend ever. But okay, fine, that's what happened. Let's focus on Lewis. Let's focus on the positive first. He looked quite good out there. And I think one of the things, and I heard this on another podcast, and it's a great point, so I want to mention it here. I think it was on the race when they were talking about how sometimes the result really dictates Lewis's mood. And so in the sprint race, when he struggles and he gets passed by Leclerc, it's like a double pass that he ends up succumbing to. He was still like, oh no, I'm fine. Like, I have confidence in the car and the engineers and what I'm doing. He very famously said the sim work isn't really helping him at Ferrari. Apparently there's a correlation issue. So some of the setup things that he thinks will work in the sim don't work in real life. So he just scrapped it, said, I'm not doing the sim this time. And I mean, I don't know the inner workings of things, but it feels like that may have led to him being a lot more comfortable in the car. But I thought it was almost like we got glimpses of old Lewis, you know, and yes, it's a P2, old Lewis, P1, like all the time. Like, that's kind of like, I mean, you don't win 7 world drivers championships without being an absolute monster. But like, in terms of how he was racing, how he was attacking the track, how much control he felt he had of the car, it really felt like, oh, there's the guy. There's that guy. So Deepti, your thoughts on Lewis and the overall weekend that he had?
Yeah. Do you think those retirement rumors sparked something else in him? I
think so, because he was pretty upset. He was pretty upset about that. He was like, I'll be here. I don't, what did he say? Because he captioned some Instagram post with this as well. And I was like, wow, he took that to heart.
Basically he was like, I plan on being here for a while. And he didn't really put out any numbers, but he was like, I'm thinking about the next 5 years and I don't see myself leaving. So he's definitely thinking about being at least a couple more years, which is great for us. And yeah, I think that sparked something else in him. And now he's like, okay, we're going to really crack down as like a team, try to like jive a bit more. And I mean, it worked well for him this weekend. I think he got better each session. And so from the qualifying and like peaked during the race, which is great. Even during like the main Grand Prix, there were some bits where, you know, he was like yelling at his engineer that he doesn't have any power. He's like, what's going on, guys? But they seem to have like worked that through. And then obviously at the end, he like overtook for P2. And so, yeah, I like where this is going. I like where Lewis is heading. I think he is like trending upwards and has been for a few weeks now in a row. And so, yeah, it's just, I mean, it's good. It's good to see him. And I think the next section of European races will be good to see how much he does. Like, I want to get back to more consistent, like, okay, week after week racing. We've had a lot of breaks in between. So I think it's hard to say for them as well. Yes. But if we get to a more consistent, like actual racing schedule, then we'll be able to better tell. I think it'd be better for them too.
It really will, because I'm like, this stop-start stuff is really frustrating, and I know we have 2 weeks until Monaco.
I was gonna say, and now we got
Yeah,
another 2
there's like
weeks.
another 2
I was like,
Yeah,
oh, damn.
it's been so disjointed and weird, and I would like to get like dive into the season. We get these little morsels of, oh, this is going to be a storyline, and then it just like fades away, and so but it keeps picking back up every time we have a race, and so it's like if we can just get consistent, these things these races can come consistently, things will get very interesting week to week watching F1 this season. So yeah, Kyle, as the I think you're the only resident DRSFC co-host who is not on the Lulu Island, so I can always lean on you to give us a little bit of Ferrari perspective. Your thoughts on at least Lewis's side of the garage?
Honestly, Lewis looks like he's having a good time, and I know he mentioned it, but he's like, yeah, this engineering team's good. I don't need to change anything. So I don't know who this race engineer is, but that seems to be the person. He seems to get it. He seems to provide it for Lewis. Like, he feels very confident with this team now, which I think is huge and probably fixes 70% of the issues. So I'm glad to hear Lewis is talking better about it. And I think Montreal is a racetrack that he has a lot of success in as well. And I believe he had his first win there. So like, he does a good job there. It's going to be interesting how, I'm not going to include Monaco because that doesn't really count because that's just qualifying. But in terms of like what happens in Spain, what happens in Austria, Silverstone, Spa, like what is going to happen in these races, that gives me a better idea of, okay, does he truly feel like he's finding his groove, or is this just like a one-off because he had the car and, you know, George didn't finish and Lando didn't finish, so those were two competitors he didn't have to deal with, but he looked strong over the weekend, so I think that's encouraging. And like I said, whoever his engineer is, Ferrari needs to make sure they don't screw it up and like replace him at this point.
The one thing that scares me a little bit is that we had a very unique situation in Montreal. So they switched to think Monaco and Montreal. So Montreal came earlier in the season and Monaco's coming a little bit later in the season. So because of that, it was cold and it was pretty damp. And Ferrari's kind of consistent issue is keeping their tires in the right window of temperature. And they can warm them up pretty quickly, but they can't stabilize them. And when it was this cold, it's like they were able to warm up their tires and then they didn't have to worry about overheating because just the atmosphere was a lot cooler than what it usually is. And so I'm hoping it wasn't just that, but I did hear that is kind of like something to watch out for. Like, again, maybe not in Monaco because that's a completely different track. That's a completely different, challenge. But in some of these other races, and especially as they travel around Europe, it's going to be very interesting to see, because I think it was like record high in like London or some recently. It was like really, really hot. And so I think we're about to get into a phase of the season where if Ferrari is just firing, like roasting their tires, it ain't gonna matter how good Lewis is feeling in the car. It's not gonna happen. Before we move on to another constructor, just quick word on Charles. He had a weird weekend. He was pretty weird in sprint and sprint qualifying and Grand Prix qualifying and the Grand Prix. He had such a lead ahead that he like even had that weird moment where he was like, it was like Montreal drift. He was like drifting his F1 car and he was able to correct it and then continue on in the same position he was in. So that's fine. But that just to me speaks to the gap between like the top 4 teams and everybody else. But yeah, he's been struggling. He was really upset this weekend.
He did not have a good time. He even got to the point where he just told his engineer, just stop talking to me. Like, I don't really care.
But don't talk to me until the last lap.
Right.
There were still like 40 laps to go.
This was from Missed Apex, because those guys are really good. They listen to all the drivers' radios, and I basically watch like the Sky feed. So I get whatever they show me. I want to get in a better habit of watching races a little bit differently and like jumping on the onboards, listening to some radio calls. So I think there's a lot more information that you can get. I could look at like the telemetry, but I'm not smart enough to figure out everything that's happening there. I still like watching like the cars on the track instead of the data on the screen. And so, but they were saying apparently what his engineer told him that made him say that was he was basically like, Lewis is like insert number of seconds that are pretty high ahead of you, and he was just like, shut up. Like, I don't give a shit. How is this helping me right now? And I was like, damn, why did you have to do that to him?
I think Lewis is still a few points behind Charles in the drivers' championship, right?
Yeah, it's close.
It's very close, but like even so, Lewis has still beat Charles out 3 out of the 5 races this time, so they're quite even. And I think this is such a different like race between them than last year, where it was like Charles all the way kind of, and Lewis was kind of just getting used to Ferrari. But we're going to see more now of what I think we expected to see, is them being a lot closer. And it's not just going to be Charles as like the number one. Like Lewis, they might have to bump Lewis up a little bit too.
And this is, I don't know if this is the first time this year, but Lewis outqualified Charles in both the sprint and the Grand Prix.
Yeah.
Like, that's something, because Leclerc is really good and has a lot of good pace in qualifying. So the fact that Lewis was able to outqualify him is another sign, like, oh, okay, maybe this is something different. I'm not fully there because I'm never going to be fully there, but I am intrigued.
Yeah, the difference between them is 3 points after all the points have been tallied from Canada. So Lewis Hamilton has 72, Leclerc has 75. Right. So it is very tight between them. All right, Kyle, McLaren, let's give it to them. They weren't the only ones on the track, but they were way too high to take this risk. What were they, 3rd and 4th? And they decided to put both their drivers on inters, even had 3 formation laps to reconsider this decision. And Oscar was on the radio like, hey, we should think about, hey, the track seems like it's dry enough for slicks. Hey, we're on the wrong tires. He just straight up told him, like, I'm done dropping
this was a mistake.
Right? This
like,
is bad.
We need to get out of this shit now.
Right. And they do not. He does 1 lap, pits. I think Lando does 2 laps in pits because they were absolutely the wrong tire to be on. They just completely destroyed both of their races from the jump. Kyle, please. What? I don't understand this from McLaren at all.
And the thing was, on the radio, Oscar's like, yeah, this is not a good idea. This is bad. We should not do this. And they're like, well, the slicks are cold, so like it'll be fine. You have warmer tires, like you're good. Everything's okay. And Oscar's like, no, this is a bad idea. And he's like, no. Well, just stay out there. Meanwhile, Lando's like, I don't like the rears of these tires. And they're like, well, okay, maybe we'll box after like a lap and then you can like make up. I was like, how are we still doing papaya rules with this? What do you mean? So that happens. And then Lando has an excellent start because his tires are warmer compared to everyone else. Like, oh, okay, Lando. I didn't fully realize he was still in the intermediates because I was watching it from a distance and I couldn't hear it.
Yeah.
So I heard the radios after, but I was like, oh, good job, Lando. And then I was like, oh, that's why he's doing so well. This is kind of like that one race where Kevin Magnussen and Haas like was jumping everyone because they had like a wet tire and everyone else was on intermediate or slick. So I was like, oh, that's not going to last long.
No.
And then they're asking Oscar like, oh, do you think we should box? And Oscar's like, well, no, fuck it. You already told me we're going to do this. So why not? And they're like, actually just box. And Oscar's like, all right, I'm just going into the pits. Like, I don't know what the hell they were doing or what they were deciding. It was just like, if you had told me if this was a Ferrari radio that was happening, I'd be like, yep, that makes complete sense. Typical Ferrari. And then it just kept making more questionable decisions, more decisions on pitting. Oscar's over here hitting Alex Albon. Like, I don't know what the hell they were doing. It was just the dumbest things. And it was completely avoidable if they just listened to Oscar and Lando and be like, we shouldn't be on this tire.
Again, 2 additional formation
I was going to say,
laps.
sometimes the universe gives you signs and you have to take them.
Yes.
2 additional laps to figure this out. And I like listened to the radio rewind after where they gave a little bit more of the engineer's radio. And each time it was both Lando and Oscar being like, we should change, we should pit. And both times, both sides of the garage were like, no, you're going to come out, you're going to like come in last place. You're going to finish or start in last place. And they were like, we can race then. If we do this now, we're just not going to ever come back. We're going to drop and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, they just didn't take, they didn't heed the advice of the drivers who were telling them, which we get to that point, right? We've talked about this before. It's like, at what point do you listen to the drivers? At what point do you like trust the data and try to like, I don't know, use the data to justify what your decisions are? But in this case, like, come on. If both drivers are saying it and they're telling you after the additional laps, you should listen to them.
There were other teams like, yeah, McLaren did the strategy and it completely failed. Like, you see how you're getting ridiculed? Like, we gave Ferrari shit when they didn't pit during those virtual safety cars. And we're like, God damn it, Ferrari. And this was like, as you mentioned, sometimes the universe is like, hey, we'll give you a redo. Our bad.
Yeah.
Here's another formation lap. You can pit. No? Oh, okay. So you're just gonna be stubborn.
Get one more chance.
It's like when you're talking. It's like when I talk to my kids. I'm just like, hey, maybe you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that. And then something happens where something breaks or they get hurt. I'm like, well, you did. I told you. You fucked around and found out.
The thing that I really didn't understand, like super did not understand, was the fact that their rationale to Oscar kept being like, oh, on the start, we're going to be great. Our tires are warmer. What about the rest of the fucking race?
What about the rest of the lap?
Yeah, I was like, it's one, this wouldn't even work in a sprint race. You have an entire full Grand Prix. So what? Like we've seen Ferrari with their smaller turbo jump to the lead and then get overtaken. Same thing's going to happen to you with these tires because the rain is just not falling enough to warrant enters. So yeah, you may have a jump like you said, Lando jumped ahead, got himself in the lead, and then it was like, well, that's a wrap. Like, so congratulations, I guess. What you said was going to happen happened, and then what? Like, did y'all not plan for beyond that? Like the race doesn't end over. It's not a drag race. I really don't understand what they were doing and what that was supposed to mean.
It's not like it was a difference between like mediums and hards and softs. Like it was like one is very clearly for a dry track. The other is very clearly for a wet track.
Inters versus softs too. Like, come on. It was like the worst possible. But then it was just like Murphy's Law. It snowballed into everything bad. Like, I don't know what Oscar was doing when he hit Albon. I think he was trying to jump ahead of both. He was trying to get across two cars. I don't know who was right behind Albon. And then Albon took the racing line in the corner and just like got hit in the side pod. He didn't even know who hit him. The engineer didn't even like see. He was like, oh, I lost visual or something. And Alex is like, yeah, I got hit. I'm out. And then his engineer's like, oh, by a McLaren. He's like, I don't know, but I'm out. I'm like, oh, man. So like that made Oscar go pit again. And then Lando drove over some grass and had to go pit because grass got stuck in the side pod and that was going to overheat. And so he had to go and like have the mechanics take out the grass. And then obviously he had to like retire the car eventually. But it was just bad thing after bad thing after bad thing.
Yeah, they were super struggling. I thought it was just a little bit ridiculous from them, a ridiculous call. We usually don't see that. Like McLaren does have the energy of they want to be smarter than everybody else, do their own thing on the grid. But that was very much like come on now. Like y'all ain't like there's believing in yourself and trusting like your ability to make a very bold call when nobody else would make that call. This was not one of those times. Like look at the track, look at how many times they've gone around it. Your drivers are screaming at you on the radio telling you, hey, well, not screaming, but they're trying to let you know this is a bad decision, and they're still like, nope, we're very smart, we know what we're doing, trust me, it'll all work out. And it was like, you didn't have the planning for this, was just all wrong. And so I don't understand that move from them whatsoever.
Listen, I think the thing that baffles me the most was like Oscar and Lando clearly see the other cars around them like, oh hey, so Mercedes has softs, Ferraris have softs, Red Bull, maybe we should go softs, because yes, Cadillac and Audi also had the inters, but they were in the top 10.
Right, but where were they?
Win or lose a race based off of that. Like, you're basically just fighting to maybe have a chance. But Leclerc, it was like, oh no, everyone around us has sauce. Maybe we should do this. And I think that's also the part of it where it's just like, sometimes you just have to make, and like they got a good look at it. It's not like they ripped the tires off and that first formation lap, they're like, oh crap.
Yeah. I was like, listen, this is the one time that I wish they did interview Zach Brown. And we didn't get it because I wanted them to straight up just ask.
Was Zach even
or Martin
there?
Brundle, just like I don't know.
I don't think he was. He was probably at Indy.
Didn't see him.
He was probably at the Indy 500.
Maybe.
Oh yeah, that's right. He probably was. Yeah, I think it's probably down there. Yeah. All right. Let's take a quick break and then get to we'll get to some radio calls in a bit. We want to do that, but let's do our predictions first review those. Then we'll do a Zoomy and Gloomy Boy, and then talk about some of the radio calls that we heard, because there were so many very funny ones. And maybe we'll just end with some funny stuff instead, and switch things around a little bit. So give me a break real quick. I said give me a break. Y'all gonna take a break, and we'll be right back. All right, here we go. Let's talk about the predictions, which, I it's really hard with the stop-start nature of the season. Like, disclaimer. It's really difficult to figure out how to predict some of these things, but we try. Kyle, do you mind running through the predictions real quick so that you can laugh at all of us?
All right. So I'll just start with myself. I didn't put it in the doc before the preview, but I did skeet it out in Blue Sky. I said George would be first, Kimi would be second, Lando would be third. And not great when two of your three don't even finish the race. And I also said Kimi wouldn't sprint, so I was just wrong. Bad on me. Ebony said Kimi first, Charles second, Oscar third. And then she also said Oscar wouldn't the sprint.
Oof.
She got the winner, so she did better than me.
I guess so. Yeah.
Donald had Kimi winning, George second, Oscar third. He also had Oscar winning the sprint. Again, got the winner. Nothing else went right. Andre, you had Lando first, George second, Oscar third, with George winning the sprint. So good job on the sprint.
Sprint race. Well done.
Deepti, you had George winning, Kimi second, Lando third, and George winning the sprint. In parentheses, you did say, am I reverse psychology jinxing George? Yes, you did.
It worked for part of it. George got the sprint race, and then the reverse, or the jinxing, happened again. But yeah, Kyle, you and I had the same podium. And to be fair, after qualifying, we were bang on. That was 1, 2, 3, and it should have just ended there for our full points. But yeah, we had too much faith in McLaren, it seems like.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's another reason why I'm extra mad at them. Because they were in a good position, and every time they introduce an upgrade or do something, it tends to work. And so I want to see, like, yes, I like the Kimi versus George. I want to see that battle. But what I really want to see is battle between constructors. And so I want McLaren to start challenging Mercedes. Well, if they keep making dumb mistakes or not even being able to start races, so they keep missing out on points, that's not going to happen. And so I want them to get their shit together. And I was just like, y'all are just throwing away this track position that you have by trying to be the smartest people in the room. I know we just talked about that, but I'm still mad about it.
Yeah, not a good time. Not a good time. Should we go to the most and least points then?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's hear what we said, because there could also be some very funny things here.
I think this is slightly better. So the actual most,
there's a lot of McLaren that I'm looking at. So.
We'll get there. The actual most was Mercedes, who had 39. They barely beat Ferrari. They beat Ferrari by 2 points.
They still beat Ferrari with one driver engine blowing up. Wow. Charles, my guy.
Yeah, getting 1 and 3 in the sprint really saved them. Those extra points. The actual least was Audi, Cadillac, and Aston Martin. I know we're shocked at 2 of those teams. Ebony had McLaren as most, Williams with the least. Completely wrong there. Williams again. Did Williams get top? No, Williams had points from Carlos Sainz.
Yep.
They looked good at times, but we'll get to the gloomy. Donald had Mercedes most, Aston Martin least, basically a layup. Andre, you had McLaren most, Cadillac least. Deepti, you had Mercedes, and for most Cadillac least, and I had Mercedes most, least Cadillac. Nice. I think we could start banning Aston Martin and Cadillac as the options.
I was going to say Aston Martin Cadillac might need to be banned.
I think, what did we say? We were going to give it to 6 races into the season, I think.
Yeah, after Monaco, we were going to say.
Yeah, after Monaco, but yeah, I don't think we need to. I mean, we've seen enough. I think we've seen.
Like, look, Checo getting the car up to P11 at one point in the sprint, great, but really,
you know what? I hate to shit on this, but so many cars pitted in a sprint race. That's what happened. Like, yes, he was doing okay lap wise, but a ton of cars decided we're going to use this as some sort of practice or pit stop or whatever, just data gathering, and brought their cars in. And suddenly you look up on these P11, he ain't make all those overtakes. It was just a bunch of cars in front of him. We're like, let's try something.
I was trying to give him something. All right.
I know, and I appreciate you, but also no, especially because, and I would let it slide, but Cadillac out here embarrassing us when he's just trying to pull into the pits and his suspension just breaks, just flies off. They're like, oh, did he hit a wall? And they show the replay, and he's driving in a straight line. Suddenly, his wheel is crooked. Something flies into the car, and I was like, Cadillac, please. Please.
Plus, what they're called the intermediates as well. It's like, all right.
So I don't know what happened there, but it was really unfortunate. It was funny looking, but I was like, damn it, Cadillac, you're on the world stage now. Don't reinforce stereotypes, please. Keep your shit together. All right, let's do our Zoomy and Gloomy Boys, because there are a few other people and drivers that we need to acknowledge had either really good or really poor weekends. Again, this has nothing to do with race results. It's all relative. Who had a good weekend, that's our Zoomy boy, and who had a poor weekend, that's our Gloomy boy. So I'll start with Ebony because she wrote hers in here. Gloomy, obviously, George. She also says in parentheses, he will not be racing in a Mercedes next season. I could see it. Although the interesting question becomes, who do they bring in to be Kimi's teammate then? So that becomes very interesting. But we won't do that. We won't do that. that
Go listen to our what if. Go listen to our what if.
Yeah, exactly. She has Zoomy boy. She has Kimi. Okay, because he was very good, and winning 4 in a row as a teenager is incredibly impressive. But it is also true that in this race, his main competitor, who was ahead at the time, his engine blew up. Mm-hmm. So there's that. And so we don't really know, but he was then in position in that Mercedes you would expect him to be. He still did it. So I understand that one. Okay, Kyle, yours.
All right. I'm going to start with my Zoomy. Franco Colapinto. I have not been convinced by him in the past, but he did really well this weekend. He was good. Like, it was a very good showing for Colapinto.
I love the intonation. You said he was good? Question mark?
I keep looking, and there he is in the points. There he is, like, quietly doing what he needs to.
2 races in a row that he's out qualified and out points Gasly. Something's happening.
Right. Like,
Gasly's like, something must be wrong with my car.
He's like, nope, that doesn't make sense. But no, so I was going to give Colapinto. He just missed out on getting that last point for the sprint as well. So overall, very good weekend for him. My Gloomy boy, I have Alex Albon. He did not have a good time. Runs over a groundhog. Car's fucked.
Yeah.
Can't do any qualifying. Sprint race wasn't anything spectacular. Doesn't qualify that. He did okay in qualifying for the Grand Prix. Gets taken out by Oscar Piastri. Just a not fun weekend. And none of those were his fault.
Right.
Yeah,
that was the wrong
that's the part that sucks. None of it was his fault.
When Piastri ran into him, he was like, come on. Like, really? Like, I already hit a groundhog. I wasn't even trying. Like, can I just, what's going on with me this weekend? Like, why is everybody trying to get in my way? It was just, I felt sorry for him, but also, again, caveat, it was funny.
I mean, I feel like, didn't last year his car like basically blow up at one point also in Canada last year? Was that there?
Was that when the side panel came off or something?
Yeah,
we got to see inside somebody's car and we were like, oh damn, I've never seen that happen before.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough, and good picks there. Okay, Deepti, yours.
Okay, Gloomy. I was just gonna go with McLaren, but we've talked about them a lot, and I think that's
they can still be gloomy.
A unanimous given answer. I kind of want to say for both Gloomy and Zoomy, I'm gonna give it to Arvid Lindblad, just because he had a really good weekend up until the race, which he didn't even get to start. In sprint qualifying, he qualified P9, and then I think he got the last point in the sprint race. He was finished P8, and then in regular qualifying, he also made it to Q3, P9, and then stalled. And after the formation lap, he was frantically waving his hands so that they wouldn't start the actual race. We saw, the red lights go and just hold for a while. I thought the guy, whoever is doing those lights, was just playing with them and doing an extra long start, and then we see what happens. But yeah, that's such a bummer because he's obviously been doing so well, and I think this is the first year F2 has been at Montreal, and so this was a brand new track for him. if I'm not mistaken. But either way, it's like he hasn't driven on it much. But for being at a fairly new track and getting into Q3 both times and getting a point for the weekend, I think he could have actually done really well. So that's just such a shame for him.
Yeah, I two things on that. I'm very intrigued by this kid. I know that Red Bull's been saying like he's really good as well, but I'm really intrigued by him and seeing what he does, how he finishes this year, and also if he's able to take a step up in machinery next season or something. I mean, I obviously not trying to rush drivers into, especially in the Red Bull system, that can always backfire and usually does. But I am really interested to see if a new crop of drivers is going to come along and really, because Ollie's looking good. Lindblad's looking good. Obviously, you have Kimi. So I'm really interested in seeing the next generation, and he looks like he's going to be part of it. Also, I love a Zoomy and Gloomy that's the same person. That makes me happy. That's always like a wow, you had an eventful weekend.
Yeah.
That is impressive. I'm going to kind of do the same thing with mine. I'm going to stick with Ferrari, and it's pretty obvious. Gloomy, Charles, Zoomy, Lewis. We already talked about why. I don't really know what's going on with Charles in that car. He seems like maybe he's doing the standard, like he doesn't want to deviate from not doing the sim or anything. He likes to feel confidence in it, but it really does seem like Ferrari has an issue with the sim sending their drivers down and engineers down the wrong path. And when you only have one practice session to figure it out, it's really difficult to figure it out. So I think maybe that's what happened with him. We'll see what happens in Monaco, what his approach is, but maybe he needs to take a page out of Lewis's book and just say, you know what, when we get to the track, we'll finally have multiple practice sessions in Monaco. It's not a sprint race. So let's see if we can just figure this out on our own instead of relying on the sim, because it does seem like, and I want to point all fingers to it because obviously I'm not inside Ferrari, but it does seem like looking at their contrasting weekends, Lewis may be on to something with his decision to just say, you know what, let's skip the sim this weekend and let's see what we do. All right, let's finish this with some fun stuff. Radio calls. I think for the one radio call that we already talked about that I loved was Charles saying, don't talk to me. So that was very funny. Do we have any others that we need to mention?
Lewis, when he had his little wobble in the race, his engineers trying to talk to him was like, "Hey, don't talk to me in a braking zone."
Yeah.
Like, what are you? It's just like, oh.
There were multiple drivers who had to tell their engineers not to talk to them in a braking zone. Like it was Lewis, I think even Charles did at some point, Carlos Sainz did at some point, and someone else too. And they were like, "Stop talking! You're distracting me. I'm making mistakes when you talk to me at these points," which I think is really funny because I don't think that's happened. At least they've never shown that to us before, and I didn't realize. It makes sense that you don't want them to talk at specific points, but that was just funny.
This is why I do wonder like what the code, either written or unwritten rules of being a race engineer are, because there has to be like there are specific points where you don't talk to the driver, but it seems that that's not consistent and that not everybody follows that rule. But it seems like maybe they have information they want to get to the driver as quickly as possible because that's like in their job description, communicate to the driver as quickly as possible. But I would maybe amend that to say like give the driver the information when they're ready to receive it and it doesn't distract them from what they're doing. So I don't know why this keeps happening, but it seems a fairly basic thing to be like, all right, you have information you need to divulge. Where is your driver on the track? When is a good time to tell them? Unless it's like something they need to know right away, like your engine's about to blow up, pull over. I don't think it's necessary to be talking to drivers when they're in corner. It's cornering in any type of corner, high speed, low speed, medium speed, it doesn't matter. So it feels weird that this keeps happening.
Yeah,
I think it's funny that I mean every race, some of these drivers have been with their engineers for a long time, but still, I guess. Yeah. I mean, it goes back and forth and depending on the driver's mental state at that point, but they're like either, okay, you need to be telling me a lot more or you need to be telling me a lot less. And it doesn't seem like we always get a happy medium. And so maybe it's just, on the day, how they're feeling, which is hard.
I also had another fun one where Lance Stroll was talking to his team. He's like, look, I'm just trying to finish this race for the mechanics. Like, leave me alone.
Okay, no, that was my favorite one because he said, I'm just trying to finish this race for the mechanics. And then he comes on like 10 seconds later. He's like, I'm just trying to finish this race for the mechanics and Lawrence. I don't know about you, but I don't call my parents by their first name. But he was like, I'm doing this for mechanics and Lawrence. And he said Lawrence like
Listen.
3 times. He was like, Lawrence.
We have joked, which has not really been a joke, that Lance just wants to dance. He don't really want to be out here like his dad wants him to be out here. I think the sort of thing you do and say in that situation is, especially when your car sucks and you're having to endure the season you're enduring, yeah, that's no longer dad, that's Lawrence. Look, you know what he should have done? He should have hit him with the government. Lawrence Strulovich is what he should have hit him with.
Yeah, he should have. For Lawrence Strulovich.
That's amazing. Were there any? I know we have like the back and forth between Toto and Kimi in the sprint. Like we can relive that a little bit because that was very funny, with Toto basically being like, "This is the 4th time we've talked about it. Like we talk about these things privately. Like you keep hopping on the radio. Stop, kid. Enough." Was very interesting. It was very parental. But then, you know what? I did mention at the beginning that I also have a tinfoil hat theory. This could have all been performative, because you can't give George the evidence that you're choosing Kimi, that you're backing Kimi over him. So maybe this, like, you see how aggressive George is being, and you know that really, if you really want to look at it, and I know racing rules say one thing, but teammates, again, we talked about how Charles and Lewis did it. Again, if you really want to get down to it, George was, even though it wasn't against the rules, doing that to your teammate is pretty shitty. Like, not really a cool thing to do. A little bit too aggressive, I would say, not really respecting the fact that you don't want him to be in a situation where you slam the door on him and maybe your rear tire hits his front tire and now both of y'all are messed up, or you clip his wing or something like that, right? So like, it was a little aggressive. So maybe they were just like, Kimi, shut up. There's this big red button in the Grand Prix. If he does this to you, I'm mashing that thing and you will see what happens. And so I think Toto hit the button. I think this is all performative and being like, listen, I'm a act like I'm chastising you, Kimi, but trust me, in the garage, I know where that button is and I'm gonna hit it. Just trust me. Stay with him in the Grand Prix on lap whatever. Make sure you have your distance, because the engine gonna go boom.
I don't know. On the sprint race, when Toto came on the radio, I like that gave me goosebumps a little bit. He like was angry, Toto.
Did you like sit up straight? Like you're like,
okay,
yes,
sir.
Yes, Mr. Wolff.
It's just like, Toto, focus, or Kimi, concentrate on driving and stop moaning on the radio. And like the way he said it, I was like, okay, if this was like acting, that was good acting.
I want to caveat, I don't know how much I believe what I just said. I just want to believe it. All right. It's in the category of something I want to come true. In like season 46 of Drive to Survive, we get to find out that this is what actually happened in this race. It would be hilarious. But yeah, I don't think so. But just think about, like, I mean, there are ways that teams do favor and slow down one driver over the other. That's happened in like the history of F1. I'm not saying that's what happened, but it wouldn't necessarily be the most outrageous thing. I just don't think that's what happened, but it's funny.
I am curious. Okay, so when I think it was Bono came on and was like, Kimi, you gotta tone this down, otherwise we're gonna make it stop, or like we're gonna call it end. Like, what were they gonna do to make it stop?
Same.
Like, just have
I would love
Kimi
to know.
come in and like end the race, or just like I don't know. I would love to know what that meant.
And my mind thinks the rational answer is Bertha Patronus rules, or what we call them, silver arrow rules or arrow rules or whatever.
Rules or something. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
I think that may have been the introduction of that. Like, okay, if y'all can't fight fairly, then we're just going to call it here and say we'll be in charge of it, and don't try to overtake one another. Keep your distance and we'll figure this out based on pace. If Kimi's going faster than you, maybe George get out of the way, but good luck telling George to get out of the way. He's never doing that. So like, I'm kind of with you, Deepti. Yeah. I would love to know what they were going to do
for another week.
Yeah, I think so. And it won't be Monaco, unfortunately.
It will not be Monaco.
Weird as hell. Although we don't have that mandatory 2-stop thing. They got rid of that because that completely backfired last season. So we will see. We'll be back to review that, or preview that race, and then also review that race once it is complete. We have a lot to talk about as well with that one. A lot more to talk about in F1. I think we should hear about the compression ratio and what Mercedes has to do about that, and Red Bull as well. I think they were also the ones using that trick. We should also hear before that race what's up with Ferrari and their development of their engine, if they're going to get to any additional funds to develop their engine. So there's a couple things that we may, like news items, we may need to dive into before we preview the Monaco Grand Prix, but we will do all of that once that comes time around the calendar. All right, that was Canada. It was wild. It was chaotic. It was interesting. McLaren is stupid. For Deepti and Kyle, I'm André. Vroom, vroom.
Vroom, vroom.